So, a bit of delay, that's for sure. Um, all in all, though, it's not the worst. Gonna go public again, mainly because I don't care who shows up. I haven't had any toxic people, so. Headline YouTube live stream. Tutorial 03 YouTube live stream. Join me if you dare. Join me if you dare, younglings. Okay. Wired in, so frame dropping should be kept to a minimum. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Wednesday, 5:30. Swale really is on top of this whole thing. Like, he's had a lot more time to work out the kinks that come with YouTube live streams than I have. I don't like YouTube live streams. I don't at all. I need to pop out my live chat so I can see you guys. Okay. So now I should be able to keep up with y'all hooligans, whatever younglings call themselves. Dun, 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 dun. And yeah, I've got 7 minutes. 7 minutes. 7. I'm so nervous for the first midterm. Yeah, don't. Don't be. I'm not even sure if Nick is going to be putting, like, even some complex stuff on it. I'm not quite sure what's going to be on it, but I'm pretty sure it's just given mathematical formulas and some basic if statements, code things. I don't think the first midterm is the one that you need to be scared about. I think it's the second one you guys need to be scared about. I'm just going to shut my door real quick. I'll be back. Oh no. Yeah, no, look, at the end of the day, these midterms are going to be nicer than any midterm purely because you have time and you have a lot of it. You have 24 hours and access to any resource you can find except other students. You can Google, you can go to Stack Overflow, which is the best website ever. You can... No, I just accidentally triggered the Google Assistant. Whoops! No, but... Are you writing on JHub? I will not. I'm going to be writing on VS Code because I hate Jupyter. Simple as that. I don't like how Jupyter looks. I don't like how it doesn't have my things. Like, for example, I like being able to type 4 with 2 R's, and then VS Code should find my snippet, and if it doesn't, then there's nothing. Oh, for the midterm, yes. The midterm is exactly like an assignment, and you have 24 hours to do it. Why? Why are you not pulling up my snippets? That I explain why. I didn't configure them correctly. Haha. Will there be test cases provided? Yes, it is exactly like an assignment. You have public test cases given to you. It will give you a lead-in sentence, and it will basically be like, good luck. And honestly, like, it sounds intimidating, but it's actually really nice. Yeah, and I have no clue why that's not doing that, so I'm just gonna... There we go. Look how nice that is. These are so good. I have a question about the assignment. Best way to prepare? We have a practice test. It is should be available on the server. Or it should be available on Avenue. I have a question about the assignment. Go ahead and ask it. I can't guarantee I can answer it, and you should be asking those questions in office hours, which I literally just finished having. So, yeah, I reserve the right to be vague. That's all I'm trying to say. How do I make a loop test functions values form? We're going to cover that in this tutorial. So, Haley, stick around. This one's going to be a doozy. Okay. Perfect. No. Don't cancel. Yay. Yes. So, I'm going to, when we get to the end of this tutorial, generic timetable. It is the final problem we will be covering. It's going to, because what I want to show you is like, this is a horrible way to test things. How far does content go for the midterms? You might see a while loop on it. For the first midterm, it goes up basically to conditional statements and maybe loop, but that's a big maybe. The second one is all about loops and recursions, the third one is all about object-oriented, and the fourth one is a smorgasbord of content. How many test cases do you guys run after we submit and check our code? Typically, we take 4 edge cases and give them all a weight of 0.5, and then run your code against the edge cases. Fourth one. No, so you have three tests and a final exam. Code that ran true for all cases. You found a case that doesn't make sense. I need you to private message me that case because it might not be safe to say. That's all I can say. It's one of those things where if it's something that needs to be announced, we'll announce it, but right now you can't give away too much. Yeah, so there are 3 major midterms and then a final exam. If it's question 3, then that's okay. Yeah, question 3 has a lot of edge cases in which we've told you guys time and time again to blatantly ignore, mainly because they need to be blatantly ignored because the question wording was never fixed. The question wording is wrong, and I will give you guys that, but... Okay, 1 minute to showdown, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to be getting started. So... is the final exam cumulative? Hell yes, every test is cumulative. Everything that you did on a previous test will be required for a future test. That is the nature of coding. We give you a basic skill, we build on that skill, we modify the skill. I'm trying to kill myself to write loops so Clyde would cooperate with me. Yeah, the Clyde condition is a problem. Anyways, ladies and gents, the loops. I'm going to be introducing you guys to the while loop, I'm going to be introducing you guys to the for loop, and I'm going to be introducing you guys to why you should use a loop. For example, here is 10 lines of print statements. And what happens if you want it to go further? Are you going to legitimately, oh, I need 4 more. Okay, so that's going to be 11, then I have to do 5 times 11, that's 55, and then I have to do 12. No! No one's going to do that. No one's stupid enough to do that. We're going to do a loop. A loop. So, we're going to do 2 kinds of loops. We're going to begin with the while loop, and we're going to begin with the for loop. And I'm going to make a statement which a lot of people don't like. Anything you can do with one loop, you can do with another loop. It's just true. Okay, it's not technically true in Python, but Go has it implemented where there isn't even a while loop because a while loop is stupid. It's a for loop. And that's it. But yeah.
So let's get into it. How would we write this as a while loop? So we clearly have two numbers. The number 5 is constantly 5, so I'm not going to even worry about it. However, this number starts at 1 and counts up to a desired number. In this case, it's going to be 10. So I'm going to have some sort of variable, and I'm going to just call it I. I, j, and k are your go-to index variables because like all it stands for is index. That's I don't know if you guys have ever looked at matrices, but that's typically how you would go. X is I, Y is J, Z is K. And that's the inspiration of that. So, while, and I need a condition. I need something for the while loop to see. So what would be my condition? I want to see if anyone knows my condition. If I want to have the while loop start at 1, sorry, not 0, and I want to have it go to 10, what is my condition? Well, I is less than or equal to 10. Yeah, that one's easy one. I handed it to you on a plate. If you guys are already comfortable with loops, you guys don't have to be here, but we are going to be getting fancy, including nesting loops, which after midterm 1, everything you guys will be doing are going to be nesting loops. So I don't recommend going anywhere. I recommend sticking around. It's going to be slow, it's going to be painful, but it's going to get there. So what do? Well, print. And I'm also going to introduce you guys to something called a F string. F. An F string is the type of string where, let's say I want to say 5 times, and I know that there's a variable here. I don't know what the variable is, but I know that it exists. Like some sort of code is run here every time. I can actually say I as if it were a variable, and because it's wrapped inside these squiggle brackets, and I put F at the beginning of the string, it will place the variable into the string completely for me. And then I times 5. So, if I run this, I'm going to get a nice terminal. Uh-oh. 5 times 1, 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 5 times 1. Why is it just 5 times 1? What did I forget? See if anyone can point it out. What is it about a while loop that's so important and is the reason why most people hate it? Any guesses? You didn't change I. I has to do something. The while loop does not care. The while loop is a condition, and it does it. It just doop, bada doop, bada doop, bada doop, bada doop, bada doop. You need to take it upon yourself as the coder to add 1 to I with each loop. So now if I run that, boom! Look how pretty that is. So now how do we do the exact same thing with a for loop? Oh. What we're going to use is something called the for range loop. I have it bound to the keyword FORR, and all it's going to do is for I in range 10 or whatever. Now, I'm not going to change I, but our range does need to change. For I in range 11. But do we want I to be equal to 0? No. The print statements up here start at 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell the loop that I want to start at 1, and I want to go to 10, but I want to be inclusive. So a range is the exact same as in math when you guys type square brackets A, comma, comma, some sort of B with a round bracket. It goes to that item, but it doesn't include that item. So what I need to do is I need to add 1 to 10 in order for 10 to be inclusive. Now, in this general case, we know that 10 plus 1 is 11. So I could just type 11. However, a lot of people find it a lot easier to see 10 plus 1. I have to go one further, so 10 is inclusive. And now, I can do the exact same thing I did above. I times 5. Now, let me ask you guys this. If I ran this, would it work? I want to see how many people are like yes and no. If you add colon to 10, if it's... Would you add colon to 10 if it's 10 not inclusive? You need to add to 10. So, not inclusive, you would get rid of this plus 1. If you wanted numbers 1 to 9, you just do this. However, I need 10 to be inclusive. So I have the plus 1, so that way it's 1 to 11. The second number, this number, is always minus 1. What does plus equals mean? Plus equals is the exact same as saying equals I plus 1. It's a shorter syntax. It seems to work. Yes. Yes, it does, Ella. It works, no problem. And why does it work no problem? Well, the for loop is actually really nice because it handles this I plus equals 1 for you. The for loop doesn't really care. So if I did plus equals 1, you will see it still works. Because no matter what, the for loop literally forces the number to be the next logical step. Because, what is range? Range actually is a function that generates a list of numbers, like this. And then what the loop does is it says I equals 1, perform code. I equals 2, perform code. I equals 3, perform code. I equals 4, perform code. But that also means that we don't need a range. So if I wanted to say 3, 6, 9, and just wanted to do that, whoops, my while loop is still running. In a for loop, could you get I to increment in steps which aren't just plus equal 1? Yes, I am going to actually cover that with the range function. So here, if I rerun the code properly, you can see I is 3, I is 6, and I is 9, because it ranges over this loop. So back to the range function, because this is a lot nicer to type. But Ella brought in a really good point. What if I don't want 2? What if I want 1, 3, 5, 7, 9? Well, I can give it another argument that tells it what to add. So now this will go from 1 to 10 in steps of 2. And if I run this, why did that not work? It made a temp code. Yeah, I don't like temp code runner. It's how VS Code runs its code. It creates like another file and simulates it. But there you can see it. Goes by 1, then to 3, then to 5, then to 7, then to 9. Hello, Christina Mante. But yes, it goes in steps of 2. And that's very powerful, and you guys might actually be seeing that in a future assignment, and hell, maybe even something else. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, test coming up. Hey, hey. Anyways, so let's move on real quick, and let's make a generic one. And there's going to be a little bit of caveat to this. I need to also make sure you guys are comfortable with lists. And one of the weird thing about a list is you can put lists in a list, like so. So I need to make sure that you guys are comfortable with lists and lists. So I'm going to show you guys how to make a list in a list. And that's going to be what this generic truth or generic times table is. It's going to generate a proper multiplication table. So, how do we begin? So first I have to figure out what is start and what is end. So what I'm going to pretend start and end is let's say you want a table that adds up the numbers from 5 to 10 in a perfect square. So you have a nice little square of numbers where in the top left corner you would have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, because that's what happens when you multiply it by 1. Then you have, what's a good one? Multiply by 2, you get 5, or 10, 12, 14, etc., etc. And what you would do is you would take in from the start to the end, and you would do a times table. Now, start in my case is almost always going to be 1. I don't know why you'd want a multiplication table that just starts at 5 for some reason. However, it is possible. And I'm always going to recommend use a for loop. For loops prevent you from making a mistake. So, of course, because we're given start and end, I can just pass start and end into my loops. That's one of the values. But remember, I want end to be inclusive, so I'm going to add 1. Now I have a for loop of I. So that's going to handle my 5. However, I need to know where does it end and what is being multiplied by. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to throw a loop inside my loop. This is startling. It is going to look disgusting because this is something that you guys would have never done. The chat's a little inactive. I was expecting some people to go like, oh no. So what do I need to do? Well, I know that my final answer is going to be some sort of list. And at the end of my function, I'm going to return that answer. I also know that with every I, I'm going to be pushing a new list. Why do I want to do this? Well, I want to keep everything organized. So what is an example of this? So if I did this with 5 and 10, I would have my first list be for when I equals 5. It would be 5 times 5, which is 25. Then it would be 5 times 6, which is 30. 5 times 7. What is dot append to it? I will be right there. 35, etc., etc. And then the next item in the list would be, okay, now it's 6. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 7, 35. 40. Da 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 da. So this is kind of like what I want to go for all indexes. So what I need to do is I need to give my answer will have to get new lists like this. So what I'm having it do is I'm using append to say, hey, at the end of this list, can we just throw in another list? And it will just be like, yeah, sure. Swoosh. I'm stupid, I know. Anyways, yeah, so, and then, what is J? Well, J will calculate the answer of, so result will be equal to I times J. And what we need to do is we need to take whatever the last list was, so ands at -1, find the last item in the answer, and to that, we're going to dot append my result. We're going to take the answer and we're going to throw it in the table. Say a certain variable can determine how many times, or say a certain variable can determine how many values should be in a list. How would we code for that? I don't quite understand the question, Arya. Because, like, if you want to say the list length has to be a certain size, let's say that's what you mean, then you could just say, if len... So let's say that we can only put in 5 items is greater than 5, then it would do that. But that's not a part of this question, so... What is the -1 for? -1 means get last item. Because this table is infinitely increasing, with every loop... Whoops, I didn't need to do that. With every loop, we end up putting in a new list. So the issue is, how do you know which list you're supposed to be pushing into? Well, we also know that I appends a new list, meaning the new list is always at the end. And if you ever want to get the end of the list, -1, that's how you get the end of a list. And it just so happens that it happens to be another list. So if I did... So let's just do a 1 to 10 for now, because that's the one everyone would understand. Generic times table is not defined. What if we want answers for different lengths from a single function? You guys are... The thing is, you have to code to the scope of the question. So if the question's asking you to do it a certain way, you can't just go, well, what if I do it this way? Do we need loops for the assignment? Hell yes. Loops are like the only way to code that assignment. If you do it brute force, you can't account for every scenario. It's a basic requirement for assignment 2. But, so the thing with the scope of this question is, there is no varying lengths. If the length were always end, you could always use end. If the length were always start, you can always use start. If the length was supposed to be end minus start, you just calculate end minus start. But to answer your question, Arya, if that was something you had to take into account, it first has to be clearly defined. We can't just ask you to do that. Because at the end of the day, a computer has to be able to do it. So if we look, numbers 1 to 10, so that's 1 multiplied by, so that's the numbers 1 to 10 multiplied by 1, the numbers 1 to 10 multiplied by 2, numbers 1 to 10 multiplied by 3, multiplied by 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, yada, yada, yada. And if we did the same thing for this guy, I did it with a while loop instead of a for loop. Now that I know about for loops, I'm sad the way I did. Yeah, for loops, in my opinion, are just much better than a while loop. For loops are just nice. You don't have to be responsible. It's great. So there we go, 25. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it's just being multiplied by 5, then by 6, then by 7, then by 8, then by 9, and then by 10. You guys will need... Are the tests harder than the assignments? They should be, but they're not in the realm of unreasonable, in my opinion. They just... The thing is, you're given 24 hours from start to finish to be doing the test that should only take you about an hour to an hour and a half. So we have the lenience for tests to be a bit brutal. But anyways, so this is how you would keep putting items in a list. What if we look at the reverse situation? What if you have a list of lists and you need to find specific values. You need to decouple it. How can you duplicate items in a list using a for loop? So, I don't know. How can you find duplicate items? Ah, sorry, I completely misread that. So, I just lost my monitor.
Why did I just lose my monitor? Ha! I think I just unplugged my monitor. Just 1 second, guys. I can't see the chat. I'll answer your question in just a moment once I turn my monitor back on.
Whoops, I just rolled over the cable. So, how do you find duplicate items in a list? It's actually a little bit easier than you'd expect. Let me find duplicate.py. So let's say I have the list. Whoops, I can't call it list, so we'll call it L's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 4. And I want to find all of the duplicate items. For element in whatever the list name is, I'm gonna just create an answer. And what I'm gonna do is, I'll get to your question in just a second, Yusef. I'm gonna just quickly answer this. So for element, if element in ans, or whoops, if the element is not in answer, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do ans dot append element. I'm going to take the element from this list and I'm going to place it in here if it doesn't already exist. And then maybe I can list doesn't have pop. If I remember correctly, list doesn't have pop. So what you would have to do is, so this finds the non-duplicate items. Like if I just did this and printed ans, it finds all non-duplicate items, but excludes any duplicates from the list. So you just have to find a way of implementing this in reverse, Matthew. That's the best way I can put it. So the best part is, though, if you wanted to exclude any item from being a duplicate, lists have something called slicing. So for index in range leng ls. So I'm going to, for the index of a number, I can say the for item is going to be the list. Haley, that's rather weird. Maybe send me a message on Microsoft Teams and I'll get to that. So I can take every item from the list up to that element. So not. And I can append it with every item after that element. It's a really weird concept. So what this would do is it generates a list of items. However, the item you're looking at in the for loop just isn't in it. Like it's cut out. And then all you have to say is if ls at that item is in whatever that list is, then you can just say it's a duplicate. So now, what this will do, I typed index, not I. List.append. I'm a dum-dum. I'm a big dum-dum. There we go. So now you can see, it prints a list where, yeah, 3 is a duplicate because it's already in the list. There's a freaking colon. However, 1 wasn't included because 1 isn't a duplicate item. Does So that's a fun little application from Matthew. What was the purpose of the ands -1 dot append result? What it does is it finds the last list. So what's a good? So let's trace the loop. Let's trace the loop if it were doing a times table from 1 to 10, because this is, what is :I? I just explained that. Okay. You guys haven't covered lists, like, at all in lecture, have you? Because this is weird that he wants us to, he specifically says in the thing, look at lists, but you guys haven't covered it. So, a list has the ability to be indexed. You can either put in a number where you get that exact item in, or you can basically say list.getRange, if you wanted to call that, where you would, exactly like the range function, you'd put in a starting number and an ending number. And I kid you not, this is the exact same as saying for index from A to B, list at index. So this and this are the exact same notation, but much slower. We've done string slicing. It's the exact same. A list is just a string. So this is a short form notation in Python for I in range A to B, get list of I. As for this question, for what is ands -1 dot append result, so the result is the answer, and we know that it has to get placed in the list. So at the beginning, there's no lists. The I loop will create a list, and then the J loop takes that last list that was created and puts in all of the answers. Then the I loop will append a new list, and the J loop, again, because it says -1, it gets the last list and just throws in all of the answers like that. Or 18, because it goes up to 9. And that's all it does. It just repeats over and over and over. It would make a list of all the numbers from A to B. Yes, but B is not inclusive. Remember, range starts at A, and if you want B to be inclusive, you have to do B plus 1. It's one of the weird cases where the range loop operates on zero indexing. So I'm sure you guys have covered the concept of zero indexing in class. So if I have a string ABC, then you can also say that, not a string, string 0, well, what would that output? You know it's going to output the letter A. This isn't Python code, I'm just doing this for example. So string 1 would be the letter B. And of course string 2 would be the letter C. That's why range has the second number not be inclusive, because if I did for I in range of 0 to 3, where 3 is the length of this string, because if you did len string, you would get 3. So if I did for I in string, it will print 0, it'll print 1, and it'll print 2, but it won't print 3 because although it's 3 items, it only prints 3 items, starting at 0, going to n minus 1. It's a weird one. Okay. You guys are full of a lot of good questions. And this course is actually like, now that you guys asked the questions, I don't get why the tutorials are covering this yet. Because you guys would have covered that in lecture eventually. I don't know why he hasn't covered it in lecture. We should all revolt against Nick. So, I have this list of dogs, and I want to find every dog that is the color brown. This is going to be a horrible one because the chat is distracting. Yeah, I agree. Chat is actually a little distracting. We have a good time. Alright, so this is one of the few cases where range isn't going to help. We've only just finished tops 2. I think you guys are actually a bit behind. Oh no. Okay, I'm just going to finish up this example and then we have time to goof around and you guys can challenge me to code whatever you want. So, this is one of the few times where a for in range loop isn't going to cut it, because these aren't a series of numbers or anything like that. This is a set list of elements. We have an advantage here where we can say for subdogs in dogs. We can go through every sublist just by calling this. So if I had this as dogs, subdogs would be this list, then it would be this list, then it would be this list, and then it would be this list. Which gives us the advantage because we need to look at every dog in the list. So we can call the same thing again. For dog in subdogs. And now we just have code. So what does the question want as an output? The answer just wants a list of all of the dogs. So a brown poodle, that's brown, so you would just go shoop. You would look at this list, you have a brown German Shepherd, you would just go shoop. You look at this list, you have a brown pit bull, and you just go shoop. And then you look at this list, we have no brown corgis. Cool, that's our answer. So we need to simulate that process in code. So we know that our answer is initially an empty list. That's what I had to start with. When I was doing it by hand, I knew that, okay, initially speaking, there are no brown dogs. And then, for every sublist, and then for every dog, I looked at the first word. Now, I don't know if in class you guys have learned how to do this, but what you can do is we have something called dot split, where I can say dog dot split by space. And what that does is, let's say I'm looking at white poodle. If I do white poodle dot spit, dot spit, if I do white poodle dot split by the space character, what it will do is it gives me a list of white and a poodle. It just finds all of these spaces and removes them, making a list. Now this is really helpful because the first word is all we're ever checking. So words, if words at 0, that's your first item, is equal to brown, and I capitalize brown, then what you do is answer dot append dog. Because remember, words isn't this. That's what dog was. You guys need to very carefully manage your variables, because it will get in the situations where it's like, hey, I'm going to append this, and of course, we return our answer. So if I run this, what happens? It's not running. There we go. Brown poodle, brown German shepherd, brown pit bull. Wide word 0. So remember, we know that a dog is always going to be a color and then a breed. And at the end of the day, this color is what determines what it is. So if we split this string into 2 items by that space, the 0th item, the first item, is the color. However, what if I don't want to do that? What if I don't have access to dot split? Ooh. Well, it was mentioned earlier. You guys have access to string slicing. The color brown is 5 characters. So if I take dog 0 to 5, and I check if that's brown, well, it does the exact same thing. Ah, cancel. That's a fun use of string slicing. However, you can even condense that shorter. 0 is the head of the list. It's the exact same as saying, take everything before 5. So if you deleted 0 and just had a colon, it's the exact same thing as saying 0. The same thing applies for if I just did this. It would take the entirety of the rest of the string. However, we know it's from 0 to 5, so we specify 0 to 5. And recall, 5 isn't inclusive. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is that space. So if I did dog at 5, that would result in the space character. So you guys have to be very careful that you don't assume that that's inclusive. The general rule of thumb is nothing in Python's included. And that's a really sad statement to say. Boop. I wonder if there's another way to do this, because I genuinely, this is just one of the things that was inside the, hey, here's a list of things you could do. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, I could use dot split, I could use string slicing. Is there another way I could do it? And I'm like, yes, but I can't cover it until the end of the course. This is a question you guys will see come back in week 7, I believe. Week 7 or week 8. So, look forward to that. Anyways, I've got to answer questions. You guys have the ability to ask any question you want. Python needs to learn a thing or two about inclusiveness. Yeah, Python's a very non-inclusive language. It doesn't care about anyone. Oh, I just thought of another really stupid way to do this. Hold on. I want to show you guys how dumb this is. For I in range 0 to 5, because it's the same thing. So I'm going to say color is an empty string, and then what I'm going to do is color is plus equals to dog at I. Whoever thought that this would be how we choose to do it? It's the exact same thing. Remember what I said. There is a short form. Can you talk about how to get a loop to plug values from a list into a function and return the function value at the end of each iteration? Are you talking about the concept of mapping? I think you're talking about the concept of mapping, Haley. So I can do that. I can genuinely do that. Map.py. Woo! So let's say I have a function. Define square. And what square does is it just returns x times x. And what I have is a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And the output I want is the list of 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, ... Right? Is that what you mean, Haley? So I have a list of inputs, and I want a list of outputs, but those outputs are literally just the result of this function. Because this is what a map is. And there are two really good ways to do this in Python. One is map. If I map the square function on the ls list and I print it, I get a map object. It's disgusting to print. However, if I did for s in, and I'm actually just going to say that this is out to make it easier. So if I did for s in out and I print s, and I'm going to print them all on the same line so that way I don't get really disgusting output. What I do, yeah, I can go over that, Atisha. So you can see that the map object, although it's a disgusting map, it still is looped and it stores everything you want. There's also another way where you don't need a for loop to index it, because let's be honest, that was disgusting. And the Snurgle one. Oh, God, you guys should have come to my office hours. They're literally immediately before this tutorial. You guys realize that, right? I'm asking about mapping for 3B. You don't need mapping for 3B, but that's a very interesting way to tackle it. Haley, I like your cut of your jib. You can also do it like this. That's it. I've had a lecture about this before lol. I hate the lectures that stop you guys from coming. You guys, like, so if it would appeal to everyone, my office hour time is very loose. Like, I don't have a lecture today until 2:30, so I can do technically office hours after this course if people wanted that. That would be cool with me. But this is what I prefer over the map function because it returns a list. It's a list, it's nothing special, it's there. You can just print it, you can do whatever you want. So this is what I always preferred. It's called list comprehension. However, you do have access to map function list. That also will do the exact same thing. Skip your lecture. No, don't skip your lecture, guys. If it's a problem, I'll reschedule. I really do not mind. Okay, let's talk about some assignment questions, shall we? Assignment 3. Now, which one of 3 did we want? Inky Blinky. Okay, I would like that. Yeah, I can just start up a Microsoft Teams call after this on the Office Hours channel and give you guys a chance to catch up because I don't know what I can say about the assignments. The thing about the assignments is I cannot code it for you. I have to help you guys code it on your own. So I'm assuming the one that people are having problems with is 3B. If 3A is what you're having problems with, it's just 4 if statements. So we're going to assume that that's the thing. So I know that you guys are given ink day, in which it takes in some day that will be called D, and it literally just goes, if D equals Monday, return Tuesday. Whoops. Elif D equals... You guys get the point. Ink day takes in one day and returns the following day. So I'm going to actually code a shorter version. And I know you guys haven't seen this structure yet, but you guys will see it soon, and you guys will need to remember it dearly. So, has anyone else been having trouble fetching feedback from assignment 1? Yeah, we're aware of that. It's working for most people, but not enough. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I just need this so I can actually run the code, right? Friday and Saturday. Monday returns Tuesday, Tuesday returns Wednesday, Wednesday returns Thursday, Thursday returns Friday, Friday returns Saturday, and Saturday returns Sunday. So this is just a short form version of what the function IncDay in your assignment does. So, if I recall correctly, you guys are given days in month, in which is how many days you have in your month, and you guys are given, dang those copy-paste skills. I keep getting you get an infinite loop, I think, and a starting day. And you guys also have whatever function returns the value. So all you guys have to do is, if you like your for loops, for day in range, you start at 1 because there's no 0th day, and you go to days in month plus 1. You want to go to the last day. Remember, it's non-inclusive. And all you do is, whatever you want result is pinball, string first. I think it's string first. Starting day, whatever day it is. And then all you have to do is if res equals pinky p plus equals 1, or whatever. So let's say I have 4 counters. P equals 0, I equals 0, B equals 0, and Clyde, of course, being 0. If result is pinky, then pinky gets a plus 1. If result is, and I'm just going to copy paste that a couple times, pop. If the result is inky, inky gets a plus 1. If the result is blinky, blinky gets a plus. You guys get the general feel. La-da-da-da-da. And then all you do is starting day equals IncDay. And that's it. You guys just code the logic and then increment the day. So it was Tuesday, now it be Wednesday. Run the code with the next day and Wednesday. Then it be Wednesday, it returns Thursday. Run the code, that's now Thursday, that's now 3. Every time I close and open the assignment, I still get the star. I genuinely think that you have an infinite loop. If you can keep closing and opening the assignment and stuff like that, likelihood is you just have an infinite loop. For all the questions, though, is what genuinely startles me. Okay, my tutorial is up. However, if you guys have time, and I'm not going to sit around and waste my entire day for this. If you guys have time, I will go into Microsoft Teams, and I will just sit. I will sit and I'll wait. I won't give it more than 30 minutes. I want to be done by 1 so I can make some lunch. But during that time, you guys can bombard me with every question. I'm going to go have some fun with mapping anyhow. Yes. Honestly, I'd love to see a mapping solution. So yeah, I will sit in Teams and I will just exist. I will have fun, and all you have to do... Haley, if you're going to map, I recommend you learn this function. I typed it in chat. It is called count. That will make your mapping solution very, very fun. Very, very simple. Yeah, just remember, if you have to change the test cases to get it to work, you have failed. But anyways, I'm going to move over to Teams now, and you guys come bug me, come get whatever answers you need. I will be there, and I will help you do whatever silliness you want, and I will help you answer the questions if you need it. That's what we're here for. We're TAs. We exist to help. So, I'm going to end the stream here, and then you guys come bombard me. Come ask your questions, and we'll get, hopefully, everything sorted out. Alright.